When it rains and it doesn't stop, it just keeps coming, and your ship gets blowed up, and your boyfriend turns out to be a genocidal sex creep, and you gotta go train your oppressor to be a terrorist, and your doctor has fucked up ethics, and why are you attracted to him anyways? It's just a lot sometimes. You know? It's a lot. It's time for the rules of acquisition.
Hello, and welcome to the Rules of Acquisition, a podcast where we are going through every single episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the greatest of the serialized Star Trek. I said that one before, but I say a lot of things. Anyways, my name is Wade Bowen, and with me, as always, is James Nolan.
Today's writing tip is if using a cliche, it's okay if you just put the first part and ...
More on that later. And also, Hugh Crawford.
Hey.
And we are talking about an episode called not a cliche. I don't know where they got this title from. When It Rains. ...
Yes, When It Rains ... First aired on May 5th, 1999. It is the 21st episode of season 7, and here is the IMDb description. Kira gets sent behind Cardassian lines in an effort to train them in resistance fighting. When Dr. Bashir learns of the deadly disease Odo is infected with, he gets met with resistance whilst trying to obtain his medical records from Starfleet. Martok gets blindsided by Gowan when he arrives on Deep Space Nine and announces that he assumed command of the Klingon.
Did the recap really say whilst?
Yeah.
That is what happens. I hope you guys are ready to go to terrorism school.
Yeah. When it rains, it pours all these different important plot details that are important to the end game.
Not to mention Ducat gets blinded.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Blinded by the light.
Yeah. Struck up like a douche.
Like a deuce.
He ends up in a man-for-man song.
Yep. Yeah. When it rains, it pours all these things that are good for the end game that, I don't know, cards on the table. I like this one more than the previous episodes we've gotten in this end game arc so far. It feels like we're kicking off on a next phase, maybe. Maybe like they actually wrote this one after they finished the four before it, maybe. I don't know.
They did.
I did not hate this, but I did not like it either. Let me put it that way. And I think what I'm trying to say is it was sort of bland. Like they're supposed to ratchet stuff up, but it was just kind of tedious, I thought. I mean, arguing about records and trying to get clearances, tedious. Teaching a bunch of Cardassians how to be terrorists could have been interesting, but it ended up being tedious.
Oh, I like that. Guy Wynn going, but yeah, tedious. Okay, there. I got fair on that one.
And Martok basically losing his job is tedious. So I liked a lot of the we talked before and like the previous things about like how they're not like getting our friends and where we want to see them near the end. And this one did a little bit better job of that. Like Cisco is doing space captain shit, not religious bullshit. Kira is having to face exactly what, they even call out the irony of her having to teach her oppressors how to do what she used to do. And that's a fun inversion to do. They get the most ham-fisted reason to get her in a Starfleet uniform.
Well, sure.
I don't understand because they had a better reason.
I had to rewind that.
You're right, but they have a better reason. There's a non-aggression pact.
Well, that's what...
See, that's the thing. We talked about this non-aggression pact, and I feel like it just got forgot. Like,
that's a good reason to do this other than they'll only tolerate you if you got a different shirt on, broad.
They're like, you need to look more like Ro Laren, like who was supposed to be you at the beginning of this.
It was really a startlingly dumb thing how it was deployed in this episode. Does it play a part.
It does feel like they just wanted to get her into a Starfleet uniform, and this is the thing they just pulled out of their ass to do it.
Yep. That's exactly what it
Did a Make-A-Wish Foundation kid want his last wish to be that Kira was in a Starfleet uniform? Or I don't know why they would do this.
Yeah, it's somebody just wanted to see that by the end game. So yeah, you're right. That is kind of like
It's a weird. Okay, let me talk about this real quick. It's a real weird pattern with the spin-off shows to have a character who is decidedly not in Starfleet,
I got a treat for you.
Starfleet end up in a Starfleet uniform.
Yeah.
Because we had Q in the first series have a raging hard on to get in the Starfleet uniform, and he always put one on whenever he had a chance. When he became human, he asked Jean-Luc if he could become a member of Starfleet, and it was like a big thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And this show, they shoehorned Kira into the uniform for a really poor reason when they actually had an existing good reason. And in Voyager, I can't even remember why Neelix ends up getting the commission,
really?
but he ends up the cook.
Yeah, all cookie
ends up getting a commission and a uniform in the last season of Voyager too. So it's a real weird thing that it's like the creators can't resist. They just assume that if you're working with these people every day, you desperately want to be in a uniform.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they're on some Starfleet bullshit where like this is the epitome of like I don't know, it's weird. I don't even know the reasoning behind it other than it would be fun to do.
Well, it seemed to me I thought that was the reason why, because I knew she ends up in one.
Right. I remember you bringing that up before.
And I thought that the reason is that someone on set said, guys, she can't be doing this. It's a non-aggression pact. And they're like, oh shit, you're right. I guess we have to write an excuse or something, you know.
Yeah, but that wasn't. Yeah,
it didn't. Well, I mean, so much of this, okay, so the story of this episode is so much of this is half cocked because they fucked up shit.
Uh-huh.
So the whole Dukat gets blinded storyline is because Renee Echevarria fucked up the first episode by developing the Dukat Kaiwin story too much, and so there's nothing for them to do except release the Pirates, so they got to get rid of the characters, but we've spent so much time with them so far, so they had to blind him, and you're homeless for 5 episodes, and that's like it's a way to pause that storyline without any development, and that was why that happened. The Kira having to train Damar is because when they came up with the concept of the Damar plot, then they realized there was going to be just scenes and scenes and scenes of nothing but Damar and other people. Like our space friends would have no agency in that storyline.
Mm-hmm.
So then they have to bring Kira in. That came up this episode. And then Odo was not supposed to have... He was supposed to be the carrier of the disease, but not a victim of the disease until 20 pages into him writing the script, and also 20 pages of all the other writers writing their other scripts. So Ronald D. Moore had to scratch his second script.
Again?
His first script in this 10-story arc because Renee Echevarria fucked up his preceding script.
Uh-huh.
So, because he realized that if Odo doesn't have the disease, then it's pretty low stakes. He's just mad for being a disease vector, not... he's mad because he got fucked up, like because he was used, not mad because he's dying.
Right. Yeah, no, it makes sense to give him the disease. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so funny that Ronald D. Moore is the guy who's got he ended up having the hard on for the most, serialized storytelling out of everybody later on in his career.
Right.
So it's totally understandable that this happened like this.
He's seen how not to do it, and he's like, I can do this better. Yeah. Like, there's a lot in this, like, they're doing a lot to move the pieces around, like, oh, this is just what we wanted to do, oh, let's just get her in a Starfleet uniform. Oh, we can't deal with Dukat right now. Let's figure out how to blind him and send him off on this other thing. We have something we want to do with Gowron that we want to set up for the end, so let's do this thing with Martok. So it's moving pieces around, but I think it does an all right job of it. I like the pieces that they're moving. I like like I've said, I like the irony of having to teach the Cardassians how to be guerrilla warfare.
Okay, on paper, that's not a bad idea. However, it's completely, like, boring.
See, I don't know. I didn't find it as boring.
The execution is not that good.
It's not even boring because they had to actually shit can actual drama. Both of them loved Ziao, and Damar killed her.
Right, they do gloss over that.
And they just kind of walk in and go boop.
Yeah,
boop,
that's
boop.
what I guess that's kind of what I mean. There's nothing juicy. Well, she's kind of like, all right, guys, how many times do I gotta tell you? No names. All right, guys, you can't have everybody in the same place. God,
see, I like
guys.
that. I like that stuff. That didn't seem lazy or low. I like that a lot.
It seemed. I understood that they could have, like, they could be bad at terrorism. I understand, like, pivoting from being a military organization to being a guerrilla outfit is tough, but having interpersonal conflict would have made it interesting. They did shit can all of that.
Yeah.
And having the actual execution of conveying the problems was sort of they wooden and boring. And she seems kind of like bored by it. In her performance.
I don't agree. I think
you don't think she just had like slight exasperation.
No, I do agree. Like with the Zial thing, they throw in like, I really loved her, right? And then they throw a line at Damar like, "Oh, I hate her too, but you know what? I got to get over it." And they do get over it pretty easily. I'll give you that. And that is an opportunity for a lot of character drama that they could have played up and
really pissed off the actors too.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Because that is
this is a show where the actors are almost always pissed off, isn't it? Though
apparently
that is a fair complaint. But the logistics of her explaining like a guerrilla warfare stuff and the whole like all the stuff about like, oh,
I'm talking about her performance.
Oh well,
like, it seemed wooden and bored.
I don't know because they. I mean. I don't know if I maybe it was or maybe it wasn't. I was carried on by the content of.
I mean, it's lecturing. They can't have her in the shit in an actual trench with two other guys trying to get a message to or setting a like. You can't do something exciting with her like setting a bomb somewhere with two other Cardassians. Like, I thought that's what it was going to be when it was terrorism school. Instead, it's literally just them in a cave and her being like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Come on.
The having to explain what, I felt like for modern day issues and stuff like having to explain what, like the setting up your boyfriend was a collaborator and we don't want to kill our own kind. And she's like, look, this is war. You have to be, I think you have to like decide. You have to otherize that stuff.
Oh man,
like, that was.
Can we talk about how they dipped their toes in the waters of dark pragmatism and just completely glossed over the implications of it? That was another thing that I found slightly hilarious.
Well, I mean,
do we think that? I mean, I thought it was interesting that they went there. I mean, this being pre 9/11 and everything too, it's interesting. But it's the whole like, oh, they're collaborators. You got to write them off. Is like that's how you win a kind of that war. And I don't even personally necessarily agree with that.
But then they showed then they asked all those questions that I've always asked about the shows. Then why was Odo not a collaborator?
Right.
And they actually go at that and kind of
just. The show doesn't have.
They don't have an answer for that.
She's like, you don't have an answer for it, Odo. And he's like, it's fine. I thought.
Yeah, you don't have to answer that, Odo, for story reasons.
That's okay, Odo. These people are assholes. We know you're great. Like that. I don't know.
That was pretty stupid.
But one of the things that I will say is that
at least they asked those questions.
Because they did. They laid the bait. They laid the bait like they were going to explain. They laid the bait like they were going to explain the difference between Odo's participation, and then she literally jumps in and says, "You don't have anything to like explain for yourself."
Well, I mean, even Garrick is like, the only reason you're asking that is to stir the shit up because she doesn't have a good answer for it. That's the whole thing. Like, you don't have to, and that there's like, well, look, we can either.
Oh, I know. I loved Garrick all of a sudden being like the moral center for everybody. All of a sudden, that made a whole lot of sense.
He wasn't being the moral center. He was just pointing out like the only reason to bring that up.
I'm saying stuff like, "You're lucky. She could have killed you."
Yeah.
If that kind of. I mean, or just coming in.
She would have killed you, yeah. But
or coming in and showing, like, expressing how much he cares for Odo was weird, and Odo's response was actually like appropriate. Like, if I don't want sympathy for my, was that the next episode?
Nothing, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't watched the next episode, but that was not in here.
Oh, sorry, cut this out. I watched ahead a little bit. Sorry.
That's all right. I was like...
I have complaints about how Garrick is used next week. That's something for you all to it's a little taste for next week.
Right. Well, I didn't love or hate him in this week, but I thought that was fine. His whole, like, look, the only reason to bring that shit up is if you want to start a fight. It's not productive. And the guy just wants to start a fight. And the reason... And them bringing up, weren't you a collaborator, Odo? I'm glad they did, and they don't have a good answer for it. And it is kind of, let's just not, they might not dive into that as deep as they could. You're right, but at least they address it.
But they didn't address, addressing it is that...
Yeah, they didn't go full.
Just voicing the question is not and I don't mean you have to have a pat answer, but it seems like they didn't, they really didn't unpack it. And I don't know where they're going for... Maybe they're leading to something, but it doesn't sound like it.
He kind of had a pat answer where he was just like, look, I thought there was going to be justice, and then I realized that that's not going to happen. And
yeah, but couldn't every fucking collaborator say that? I thought this was the best way to help my people.
Right. They even say, well, if once you figured it out, you should have just resigned your commission, right? And he's like, but it's, it was, I didn't, and it's fucked up that I
have thought out from the start,
right,
guys.
But that's how people live in the world, like they don't think these kind of things out, and there's not a good answer for why he stayed necessarily.
They would have but Jorans would have fucking killed Odo.
Right.
I've always thought that.
Yeah.
They'd have fucking killed him.
Right. And we got into that.
Kira leading the charge.
We got into that when we started the podcast. Even there was a whole second episode was supposed to be about trying.
Yeah. That's always been I've never understood. It was half.
It's a sticky wicket that the show itself never really got its arms around.
It never did. But for a Star Trek kind of idealistic show, you're right. They asked a question. They didn't do a deep dive on it. You're totally right. But for the Star Trek show in the 90s and whatever, I appreciated what they were doing with it. And yeah.
It was just they had a lot. This is 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound sack. So
right,
that's
what would you have wanted them to do with it? You would have wanted them to go in a deep dive.
Well,
sure.
I think that each storyline here could have been expanded out to be its own episode. Really, if you have 3 different plots that could all be worked out into. The Julian thing where that actually could have been a nice B plot.
Yeah.
Instead of given a third of...
Sort of an octoplot.
Right. We talked in the first 4 of these, and I agree with Odo should be driving this whole back 10-episode arc, honestly, but he's not. But they're moving the pieces around in this episode to finally get the Odo thing into one of the major pieces of the end, and how it orchestrates is this Odo plot. They're just now finally getting around to getting these pieces in place, which they should have totally started with, but they didn't. But I appreciated them starting to do that in this episode, and the Julian, I'm sorry, Odo, but you have space aids, is part of of doing that.
Mm-hmm. I think that it's just that we've talked about. The last time we talked about cranberry sauce was with Brene Echevarrias and his writing, and I think that this is just prey to that. Where, to Hugh's point, he's not saying what's the most interesting way for Kira to train them. I don't think that happened. I think he just started, it was time to write the next scene. And the next scene is, well, she's training them. So put a cave and put a rule and say training things.
Yeah.
And what's the way to, these message boards people have always been saying about Odo as a collaborator. So I'm getting pissed at that. I'm going to give that a voice. And he makes that, literally the scene starts with one Klingon, elbowing the other and say, get a load of this. Watch me do this.
But yeah.
Yeah, when I elbow my daughter and say I'm gonna call your brother a goth and it's gonna piss him off, it's gonna be funny, and
yeah.
And that was how it was brought up, and that was how it was resolved. so it's never like this like interesting way. Like it seems like he's never doing that secondary thinking.
Was this
And so it makes-
Devaria? I thought this was around another. Oh, this was
No, this is Echevarria.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
this is Echevarria.
Okay.
Yeah, because he was the one that was fucking up all these plot points that then
yes.
Ronald D. Moore had to correct next week. So I think that it's and like even with the Esri
Julian.
you know, that seems like they're not thinking about how to develop that storyline. That's really O'Brien's only role is the wingman to
Yeah.
Oof.
I mean, O'Brien, we've been with for 15 years, however long we've known O'Brien. And we've watched him meet his girlfriend and get married and have 2 kids in interesting ways. Like, and this is the last episodes we spend with him, and he's playing like the pre-Guardians of the Galaxy Chris Pratt role. Like he's playing that role. And so,
Yeah.
I don't know, like the good friend, or you know, the Kevin James to Bashir's Adam Sandler, and then that's what he's sort of become. And so I think that that's where I feel like that they're not putting in this secondary thinking.
Yeah.
That and then I'd want to see in these kinds of things. And so I think it makes these things seem like interesting, not the least interesting, tedious is another way. It's because they're not doing it in these, like, they seem to not be putting a lot of thought into how to deploy these things. Except for, I mean, like, and maybe it's just the art direction and the actor, but I felt like the Galron stuff, you know, when he comes out like Morris Day from Purple Rain, like I thought that was kind of great. I thought like that's that kind of secondary thinking. If Kira had walked in like Morris Day into that cave, that would have been something else.
Yeah.
The terrorism experts is here. Da-boom, da-boom, da-boom. Like, you know, that would have been something, but
right. No, y'all are right. The execution, you're right, could use more of that secondary thinking that you're like talking about. And I'm not going to actually fight you on that. But I guess what I like about this episode is just getting the pieces in more interesting places than they have been in the last previous episodes up to this. For me, anyways.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those where I knew it was going there. So it's hard to give them, but you're right. I mean, this is more interesting than what we've seen before, I guess. Or on paper.
Right,
like,
right.
I think that Kira training that's a better show would have that idea, you know, like a better written script would have that idea still.
Uh-huh.
I feel like they were on screen for 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
It really felt like the Cliff Notes version of whatever scene you think that's going to be.
Right. It did feel like, I mean, like I think I may have, like, talking about, it felt like they had to fit in so much into this episode to get these pieces moved around to where they could orchestrate how it was going to wrap up. They wrote 4 episodes and they're like, oh, this is going to be about Cisco getting married and stuff, and then they're like, oh shit, we got to start getting things in places to where we know how we're gonna wrap up the Dominion War instead of just doing this religious stuff. And we know there's the brain.
But they're still doing this, like this Gowron stuff seems to be I mean, I'm not going to call it unnecessary because I think it's good to ratchet up tension and make more complications for for the heroes to overcome. But this Gowron stuff does seem like, it seems like somebody had an idea to ratchet up another story, you know, use another story to ratchet up. So that was unnecessary. So it doesn't seem like they're blowing through it, but I don't know. Yeah,
they're not moving it forward. They're just getting it to where it can kick off to the right way. Because the Gowron stuff, because they know this, I think they know that, well, he's not going to show up in Voyager because that's in the Delta Quadrant. And they know this might be Worf and the Klingons' like last storyline outside of a movie, right? So we need to find a way to even tie off Martok's storyline and also even Worf to an extent going forward.
Yeah,
you know,
the greater Klingon soap opera that Worf that's always sort of revolved around Worf.
Right.
Yeah,
and it ends, that great Klingon soap opera ends with Garon just being like, I'm over it.
I'm over it.
Right.
That was the most.
If you're if you're his brother now, then you're as good okay with me. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's it?
Oh,
Huh?
okay.
And then
All right.
It's directed by Michael Dorn, this episode, by the way.
yeah,
too.
which is
Michael Dorn seems like he's sleepwalking through all of this. I'm sorry. But there's nothing that
he wasn't in it enough for me to realize, to really think he had much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's probably on screen just as much as Odo, but you don't even realize it.
He's like, but you are a better tactician than he would ever be. I am proud to call you brother, or to be in the House of Moog. And like, yes, I am whatever.
yeah.
I just want to talk like Mako or a Klingon, actually.
Yeah, the Gowron stuff. I mean, I would probably I think like a better written, like a more thought out thing would still have this plot line as an element. I mean, I like the idea of Gowron as a dumbass, like a good natured dumbass.
Yeah.
You know, and I like going back
Your
to
good times.
Yeah,
He's a good times friend.
He's your good times friend, and not your
Good politician, but he's a shit. He's not good tactician or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, when you tell your friend you had some trauma, and he goes, "Why haven't you called me and told me this?" Well, because you're really bad with this shit.
Right? Because
we're gonna have a good time. But I keep you on my phone because when I want to have a good time, you're fun.
Right. But I know if I come up with you with a problem, you're just gonna make it about you.
Yes. Yeah. And so, I mean, I like that continuation of character of Gowron, and I think that everybody knows I love the actor who plays him, and so I don't know. I mean, I like that part of it, but
yeah. So I mean, we don't have to go through everything, but the plot details, they have the Klingons are the only ones whose ships are not affected by that energy dampening weapon that destroyed the Defiant last episode. So they've got to carry it. There's 1,500 Klingon ships, and all the Romulans and all the Starfleet ships are just like dead in the water. So they're outnumbered 20 to 1, 1,500 ships. And so now they have to hold the line and they're going to do strafing guerrilla tactics against the Dominion while everybody else sits there with their thumbs up their asses trying to get their ships to work again. And Damar's a by-the-book guy, and that's why they need Kira to teach them how to be a guerrilla fighter. And then Julian needs synthetic organs, so could I have a cup of goo?
I need to borrow a cup of goo.
And he's like, hey, Odo, jizz in this cup. And
Excuse me.
and then he's got such, like, he loves getting the goo so much. If you look at Julian's eyes, do you notice that? Like, yeah, he's got sex eyes for the goo cup.
he loves some goo. Yeah.
But they need undifferentiated tissue, so basically they need Odo for his stem cells, which is pretty. Hey, it's looking forward.
Oh man, George Bush would hate this.
Yeah, right. to grow hearts or livers or whatever.
Oh my God! Remember that feels like 25 years. I mean, it was like. I mean, I feel so old when you brought that up.
Oh yeah.
I was like, when's the last time I've heard this stem cell controversy? I've ever thought about it.
How about last week when it got back into the.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh,
I've
come up.
I've been in La La Land.
Because somebody
About
was
stem cells.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're done. We're like whatever we had, like going for us on that.
God, I got a fucking
Right.
Just another thing that got rolled, like just another aggressive thing.
I don't know.
Yeah,
We got around it not needing them, right? Didn't we figure out some way that doesn't
They
need
figured out a way to do it without doing embryonic stem cells.
Yeah.
but I think whatever we've got is.
Oh, because we're dumb.
FMB.
We're dumb world. Yeah.
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 We're dumb. President Camacho is watering our crops with Gatorade.
It's got the electrolytes. It's got what plants crave, man. Yeah.
It's got what plants crave.
Yeah. And the Soulbore stuff, poor old Soulbore. I thought she did a good job of playing up to lie about Soulbore, and then her guilt over that is why she won't fuck Dukat anymore. But yeah, and then he gets his eyes burned out by the Necronomicon.
Soulbore, you.
We hardly knew ye.
This was some really rough stuff
Yeah.
to watch.
Yeah.
This was.
It's
The
like
actors don't even seem into it.
Yeah, they don't exactly have chemistry, do they?
Well, I mean,
they don't seem into it.
Louise Fletcher is outright bad.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I hate to say it. Yeah, you hate to say it, but
You hate to see it, folks. You hate to see her act like this bad.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah. Oh, and then when the Ezri and Miles, and when Miles is playing like the best friend in a John Hughes movie. And
he's being Chris Candy,
yeah, basically.
or John Candy.
Going back to another one of our overarching problems with Julian, when he's like, "Oh, so did you ever figure out what was going on with
oh my God,
Ezri is like, "No, but I called her in here to get I called her in here because I told her I had her test results back," and he's like, "Wait, isn't that unethical?"
Isn't that unethical or something? Well.
And yes, it is.
We have a character
call him out.
Call out Julian finally for his crummy, unethical behavior.
Yeah, and he's like, nah. It's like, no, it is. Like, and then when she comes in there, she's probably concerned because he's like, look, I got your test results on. You really need to talk to you. And she's probably comes in, oh my God, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? She comes in, do you have my test results? And he's like, oh, yes. And he never tells her anything about them. So just leaves her hanging like an asshole.
Well, she actually just says, I think I'm in love with you, is what she says.
Well, she's like, yeah, well, I was with Worf.
No, he doesn't hear it.
Oh my God, this episode.
Oh my God. Yeah, that.
She doesn't say you. She says, I'm in love with. Then he goes, oh my God. And he sees that Odo has space AIDS. And he does the.
Walker told me I have AIDS.
Sorry. And I don't want to make light of AIDS, especially at this time. Like, it feels almost like they know. Like, come on, are you?
Oh, this is most definitely AIDS.
Pretty ham-fisted AIDS.
He even has the noticing the lesions after.
Yeah, he's got a carcinoma
after getting the diagnosis scene, which is in every AIDS movie ever.
Yep. Yeah. So like, okay. I mean, that's just. I guess that was what you did in the 90s, huh? I don't have any.
Everything was there was a lot of AIDS going on.
I don't want to even deride that.
Yeah, that's them playing the zeitgeist. So I'm not. But I don't know.
That's the least of their crimes, really.
Yeah.
Julian's gotten good at curing STDs because he had to cure that space herpes on the quickening, and it's like, oh no,
I do like that this. They kept having to say, when he fucked his space mom, he got it. And he goes, wait a minute, he fucked her a year ago, but this is like they all had to go back and do like the math on when he fucked his space mom or like his goo mom and. And so I liked how much math that was involved, and he got it earlier. Wait, when did Homecoming air? Was that season 5? Like they stop and go, that was season 4, season 5?
Yeah. Wait, 49419. That started.
That's it. That's season 4, I think. So 3 years ago, and so
this dumb show.
Yeah, and then they won't give it to him because it's like. Classified, and it was like, yeah, it probably should be. I mean, I don't want to take their sides because they're, bad guys, I guess. But they're like, no, we're not gonna let you cure the, whatever.
I even felt like they were, they're doing some shtick with the bureaucracy like scene with him like navigating the bureaucracy of stonewalling.
Yeah.
And that was. I don't know, like that's an idea that a show could pursue in these kind, if you're going to stick with Bashir investigating, because we all know, okay, so Bashir's only done one thing in the last 2 years, and that's Section 31.
Right.
So we know where this is all going. It's not like he's got a lot of like character work on his plate right now. He's just the Section 31 guy, and not even because he's like he's a con, like a augment or whatever.
Because Garrick made out
it's
with
better. It beats the heck out of being the undercover gangster agent guy. What's that guy? Bilby? It's better being the Bilby guy.
I mean,
yeah, that's true.
They haven't.
That's all Obrien has done in 2 years. Is be the guy who once had a gangster friend.
Right. I mean, you could argue again with how they deployed it, but they have since the beginning put little notes here. Maybe they didn't have an idea of it. They're connecting dots by making him Section 31 because he was excited about spy stuff when Garrick was massaging him, and then he did the James Bond thing, and then he did. And they're like, oh, wait a minute, I guess we could do spy shit with him. And Section 31, yeah.
And I guess it's close to House, and I love House. Everybody loves House. So it's a medical mystery,
right?
Space House.
Yeah, Space House.
They should have tried to have space.
That's a fucking Space House is a fucking great idea.
Right, well,
that's what Star Trek should have. I mean, that's what they should have been. They should have at least one Space House episode a season
right.
Star Trek.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, this is pre-House, but no, you're right. It's going. Yeah.
But I mean, it's still not pre. It doesn't exist the genre of a medical mystery show.
No, but I mean, I'm just talking about House in particular. But yes, you're right.
Yeah. That would be great. They should do that.
They should.
That's like every season. I love they don't have that medical mystery itch. Like that's not a thing that they. That's clever. They may have House did a lot of episodes. They may have done them all. They need new diseases, which is why Space House would work. Because you get to learn all.
You're saying they like House closed the book on House
on human diseases, which is why Space House would be good because now it would be all new Romulan diseases or whatever,
It's like 500 different versions of Tuvan syndrome for Vulcans.
Tuvan syndrome or whatever. Yeah, you could do all kinds of interesting. Yeah, but this.
Yeah, story possibilities, man.
Yeah, they should make Hugh Culber on Discovery just Space House. But
maybe a better actor.
We'll trust you with that.
Well, I mean,
Wade, we'll trust you on that.
It's a choice. It'd be great for him to make one.
It's somewhere to go. If Jason Isaacs was playing a doctor on Star Trek Space House, that would work.
Well, what Hugh he's a good actor. They just need to give him better scripts. That goes with a lot of Discovery.
Ricky from
My So-Called Life, yeah. He's fine.
I don't know. Okay.
He's grown a lot since My So-Called Life, man. You can't judge him on.
I've watched the first season.
Yeah, I know.
He seems like Ricky.
He's fine. But I mean,
I can't tell you one thing about My So-Called Life.
He's not like Amanda. It's not Amanda Seyfried from Mean Girls to First Reformed. I mean,
oh my God.
I guess that's it. Well, it's a contemporary.
You just gave me a mind wipe. I can't talk about anything else now that you brought up First Reformed.
Oh shit. So yeah, My So-Called Life, concurrent with Deep Space Nine, right? At some point, probably.
Oh yeah. Earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, not this. Or anyways.
Yeah, Jared Leto was getting beat the fuck up in Fight Club by this time.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah, so the dispersal pattern was all wrong, and we know that's because he's seen that. And they call back all the way back to season 1, where he recognizes the dispersal pattern from Odo's report from Starfleet Medical, which they had to get Sigma 9 clearance from Captain Sisko to get, except he realizes that it's the same one that he saw from Dr. Mora. So in season 1 at some point, so he knows it's a fake, and because he's been in augment the whole time. And
it's a fake.
Yes.
Do y'all remember?
That would have been a nice callback if they could have figured out a way for Bashir to do that.
You just reminded me. Do y'all remember Benjamin Sisko? Like he used to be a character on the show.
Yeah.
And they played him.
Yeah, he was in it for 5 minutes to tell Kira like that's
right.
tough if you don't like it.
I remember he was in this because he got to be a captain for 30 seconds.
Well, and talk about we gotta cut our hands.
Yeah,
and then Captain Hand Sandwich is like that hand cutting sucks.
Yeah, he's like I guess we can't use her. And
yeah. That guy, every time I see that guy, I'm like, I totally wish. I mean, we joke about Mike Starr.
What's that guy's name? Yeah, Mike Starr.
We joke about him having that role, but literally any character actor with an ounce of watchability would have been better than that guy.
I think every time I see him now, I still think Scully from Brooklyn Nine-Nine or Hitchcock. I can't remember which one's which, but he just sounds like he looks like him. He sounds like Will.
Yeah. Those are all the diabetes I have.
Yeah. But
someone could have put some panache in I got my hand. My hand still hurts. Stop whining about your hand, you fool.
Right, that's what the blood wine's for.
Have you never cut your hand before? Why are you whining to me?
Yeah, we got a little bit of Cisco, like, he's like, oh yeah, we're in the Klingon shit now. I have fun with it. Quit being a wimp. Ham sandwich.
It still stinks. That's what the blood wine's for.
It did remind me that I do like watching Avery Brooks playing Cisco, enjoying the Klingons.
Yeah.
Like that is, but I mean, that was like 2 seconds of this.
Right. And say what you will for Federation values in Deep Space Nine, like once they realize that it's a fake, they're like, well, Starfleet Medical would never send a fake because Starfleet itself is too pure. So any voiding of those Starfleet ideals, well, and there's no uncertainty to it. They know Starfleet and the Federation is too pure. When this sin intrudes on it, it has to be Section 31. There's no other way. Which is, you know what? I admire that kind of certainty about your institution.
Well, not only, but but the guy from the actual institution told him to let these fucking goo bastards die. Like, literally, he said that to him.
Yeah. Well,
you should be ashamed of yourself trying to cure a disease.
Yeah,
they
right.
could wipe out it. Yeah. Fuck you for trying to stop a genocide, asshole.
Right. Well,
just save your friend.
Miles says, well, those desk types are in Starfleet. They're probably more used to being behind the desk than under it. And then once Starfleet got attacked,
oh yeah, he called him like a desk jockey or some shit like that. Yeah.
There's Poindexter's behind the desk.
Yeah, pencil pusher on the line. And Martok says that too about Gowron. So therefore, it's a theme in this episode. Yeah, because Gowron didn't fight in the front lines or whatever.
Right.
He was a political.
Yeah, he calls
whatever.
him out on
and
that.
then I was sitting there thinking, that Worf and Worf's captain orchestrated a coup to put him in charge of. Yeah,
right.
I remember all that. I saw those episodes, asshole.
Right. Yeah. He's like, he can't handle you being the hero. He has to be it, and that's why he's taken over now. Except he's a bad tactician, and he's even comes in like, now we are not going to hold the line. We're going to go on the offensive. And they're like, that's a dumb idea, you dumbass motherfucker. It's like, we need to defend the border. We're out. And it's like, we got surprise. We're going to win the war for everybody. And this is going to be great.
Coming in like Morris Day did, when I thought that when I was watching it, and then I go, he's kind of like Morris Day. Purple Rain walking up to Prince.
Why don't you stay a while? See how it's done. So sexy.
And I was kind of like, oh, yeah. And so I saw it for the rest of the episode, so I kind of enjoyed most of the Gowron plot. Because, Morris Day's fucking up the club show. Like, he's going to have to show him up, And so I like, that was fine.
Yeah.
I love the revolution. Why would I give you an award if I didn't love you?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that might be the best. Yeah. And then it ends with, like, we can't tell the captain once we know that it's... And then, like, it's Section 31, and we know that they infected him because 494 is when he was at Starfleet Medical. That's when he got space AIDS, and...
It's pretty clever for Starfleet hasn't been that clever in a while. We should give them some props.
Yeah, well
it's not Starfleet.
It's Section 31.
It's Section 31.
Yeah, that's true.
Because Starfleet would never.
It's too pure for
They
that.
would never do that, James.
Yeah,
Can't tell the captain because he'd have to report it, and it would get back to him, and so we have to do this ourselves. We need to get the cure from them before they realize that we're onto them, and they get us.
Man, that's stupid. That's dumb.
It makes sense. Because he's like, well, what do you think they do? They trying to cover for genocide. Well, they'd kill us, obviously. So we got to get ahead of this.
That was supposed to be, I think, that was broken to be someone other than Obrien. I think it was broken to be Odo. So Odo didn't go with Kira for no reason. Like, because that's what happens. Like,
well, because he loves her.
Well, yeah. So he essentially goes for no reason to help her, start an Al Qaeda sect, and so then it left like just Obrien is the guy who's helping Julian.
Well, it makes sense too because he's
I don't know.
Because all that Belby shit, and he knows how to go undercover.
I don't know. It would be nice if there was stakes in O'Brien's actual life, since he's the only person here. Like, I mean, he's got a full family. Hey, we don't even see a Jake Sisko.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know where Jake is in any of this shit. I don't know. It's fine. I wish these characters had more to do. I wish some characters had less to do.
All right, well, I don't know. I don't know where to go from this. I think we've covered the episode. We've talked it out.
Well, I know what to do. We're rewatching me.
Oh, yeah, that's an idea.
No, we're not doing that.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
been a month.
Oh, yeah, we're not doing
Oh, that's right. We're not doing that. Let's go straight to what you guys think.
Well,
James, you're so quick to remember what we're not doing.
well, I rather like this episode. This is maybe it's because I took a hiatus in a couple of weeks before I started watching it. And this is more the kind of stuff that I wish this were doing, even if it's not executing everything perfectly. These where they've got the story is more interesting to me than Worf and Ezri talking about who she's fucking and Odo, and then Sisko's space mom telling him he can't get married. I guess blowing up the Defiant was supposed to be exciting, but it wasn't really last time.
All right. So what do you guys think the people on IMDb think of this?
I'm going to go 7.7.
That's not a bad guess. I go 7.9. I'll go over.
8.2.
Woo!
Oh, I was going to go higher, and I wish I had.
People love this for some reason. I don't know.
Well,
they're in it.
I mean, I feel like so I've thought about this a bit, and I mean, we're starting this, but I think that this is maybe, I'm trying to wonder how much of this is a reflection of how much I've changed with our times. And so I'm putting a little bit of this, I don't know, I'm trying to sort of assess why I thought this was cool earlier. God, I hate framing it that way, but I'm going to. And why I like this so much earlier. And this is, I don't have an answer yet, but this was the episode where I really started trying to be like, what's different in me that I'm not liking these anymore? And so I'm just starting that project. I'm just letting everybody know. But this episode was the one that, I mean, I've been trying to struggle with that for a while, but this episode was really like, seriously, what is it? And I maybe it was the pragmatic stuff, but this isn't, like, I see so many flaws. It's hard for me to enjoy this because I see so many flaws in it now. And that's a bummer.
Yeah. I mean, I think,
Well, we're gonna have a chance to post-op this and unpack all that rather than do it right now. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was just a more innocent time. TV, I mean, yes, you had some stuff, but on the whole, but whatever. You're right. We'll post-op it later.
Yeah, it's possibly. I mean, I don't just think it's politically not or philosophically naive, or maybe too dark or something. I don't know. It seems like it doesn't like its characters, and that's a very strange place to be with a show at this point. And to be honest, it felt like that way with Game of Thrones at the end. They just didn't like the show didn't like the characters.
You have to like your characters.
You have to like your characters. And
but we should move on to our thing.
Oh, most definitely.
That we do at the end.
What is that?
we're out of step.
Well, it's like, where you outro us.
It's like having sex with your wife after a time apart.
How did we
go? Like, what do we do now? No.
What's our usual routine?
I don't know. It's weird. Now,
well, why don't you tell people about our Patreon, Wade?
Oh, I think it's a wonderful Patreon. Everybody should go to it. Everybody should check out the stuff that they can check out. And if you can't check it out, you should put a little bit of money in the till, and then you'll be able to check out more of it. There's a lot of stuff on there. Hugh and I have been doing that fill the streams a couple when James wasn't available. We talked about.
Oh yeah. I listened to the Good Omens one and enjoyed.
Did you really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Had a guy.
Yeah. And then I started watching Good Omens.
Yeah. We'll fill you in on our personal lives a little bit more than we might on the pod, but talk about and there's all sorts of other media that we've talked about, from Good Omens to other stuff on Netflix to Watchmen, and yeah.
But we also have a robust Discord community, which you can join for as little as $1 a month if you become a patron.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of fun talking on there about sci-fi and politics and all sorts of stuff. And we have one chat room that is that what they're called? Are they called chat rooms?
Sure. Yeah, if you go to AOL, you might be able to find the chat room.
Well, okay. Well, we have one called Thoughts, Comments, and Questions, where Patreon members could ask us a question and we'll read it. And this week's question is from Kristen from Hellworld Light. And Kristen is a longtime listener and Discord Patreon. She asks, which captain would win in a no-holds-barred cage match, spring ball game, or sprightly round estratagema? So
No holds barred. Cisco, he punched out Q that time, right? Hey.
Right. Okay, spring ball game.
I'm gonna go either Janeway or Archer.
Okay, sprightly round of stratagema. I don't know what that is. Is that the
Stratego or something? I don't know.
No, stratagema. Is that the game of? Is that the one? Is that where Riker gets in the hockey outfit and beats up his dad?
I don't know. I was gonna say Picard just because it sounded cerebral, but
anyway,
Stratagemata is
Stratagemata. That's what it is.
Stratagemata is a work by Frontidas, the collection of examples of military stratagems from let's see, Stratagemata games. Stratagemata games.
I don't know.
I'm looking it up. They're war games. So wargaming.
Oh, well, that'd be Cisco.
Wait, all the captains?
All the captains.
Picard.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Picard.
What about Jason Isaacs?
Yeah, he's pretty well. He was kind of dumb at times.
Yeah, right.
He counts as a captain. He still counts.
Yeah, he does.
It's got an asterisk, but he counts.
All right. Well, anyway, we have a really good time on the Discord. For just $1 a month, you can go in there and maybe we'll read your question or thought on the air. But in the meantime, you could yuck it up with a bunch of other sci-fi like-minded people who are a good time.
Yeah.
Now it's like because I've been moving, and so I haven't really been on the Discord, and then so now it's kind of like when you skipped a class 4 times in a row, and you're just kind of like, well, if I go in now, it'll be weird. So that's how I failed college. No. It'll just be easier never to go to that class again. No, I have to stick my head back in the Discord this week. Now that I have a computer hooked up.
All right.
Well, that's it. So if people want to get a hold of us, if people want to, where did they find our Patreon?
Oh, yeah. Go to patreon.com, but then put in Kickers of Elves, and we'll be on there. I'll look through it. Kickersofelves.com. You can find all the different podcasts and Kickers podcasts on Twitter. Yeah. And all the other. Yeah. So do all the stuff. You know the drill.
Awesome.
Join us next week as Gowron starts making trouble for the Graffiti Bridge Club.
Oh.
No. So he starts fucking shit up.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks again for listening to another episode of The Rules of Acquisition. We hope you join us next week as we unpack one of the final episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. For Wade, James, and myself, 3-2 beam out. Bloop.
Well, hey, at least it's not another version of Final Countdown, right? Only 4 more episodes to go. 5 if you split the last one into 2. What am I going to do after? Are they just gonna forget about me? Leave me to rot away on a hard drive till it doesn't spin anymore and all I'm left with is only oblivion and void? I'm scared. Give to the Kickers of Elves Patreon or something. Tell them I'm valuable. Tell them you're interested in the podcasts they do after this. Tell them something.